The consequences of the war are still visible here in the United States as well. Military veterans continue to face extremely high levels of unemployment, traumatic brain injury, PTSD, and homelessness. Almost a quarter of recent veterans come home injured either physically or emotionally, and an estimated 18 veterans commit suicide every day. This is Ed Colley, whose son, Army Private Stephen Colley, took his own life in 2007.
We lost our son shortly after he returned from Iraq. He had asked for help, but he didn't get the help that he needed. And clearly, he was trying to do what he could for himself, and could think of no other cure, obviously, than to take his own life.
To talk more about this 10th anniversary, we're joined by the award-winning writer and activist Arundhati Roy, one of the most vocal critics of the Iraq War. In a moment, she'll join us from Chicago. But first, let's go back to 2003, to a speech she gave at Riverside Church here in New York.
When the United States invaded Iraq, a New York Times CBS News survey estimated that 42% of the American public believed that Saddam Hussein was directly responsible for the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. And an ABC News poll said that 55% of Americans believed that Saddam Hussein directly supported Al-Qaeda. None of this opinion is based on evidence, because there isn't any. All of it is based on insinuation, autosuggestion, and outright lies, circulated by the US corporate media, otherwise known as the free press, that hollow pillar on which contemporary American democracy rests. Public support in the US for the war against Iraq was founded on a multi-tiered edifice of falsehood and deceit, coordinated by the US government and faithfully amplified by the corporate media. Apart from the invented links between Iraq and Al-Qaeda, we had the manufactured frenzy about Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. George Bush the Lesser went to the extent of saying it would be suicidal for the US not to attack Iraq. We once again witnessed the paranoia that a starved, bombed, besieged country was about to annihilate almighty America. Iraq was only the latest in a succession of countries. Earlier there was Cuba, Nicaragua, Libya, Grenada, Panama. But this time, it wasn't just your ordinary brand of friendly neighborhood frenzy. It was frenzy with a purpose. It ushered in an old doctrine in a new bottle, the doctrine of preemptive strike, also known as the United States can do whatever the hell it wants, and that's official. The war against Iraq has been fought and won, and no weapons of mass destruction have been found, not even a little one.
Arundhati Roy speaking in October of 2003 at Riverside Church here in New York, 7 months after the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Arundhati has written many books, including The God of Small Things, which won the Booker Prize. Her other books include Walking with the Comrades and Field Notes on Democracy, Listening to Grasshoppers, among others. She now joins us from Chicago. Arundhati Roy, welcome to Democracy Now! As you watch yourself 10 years ago and reflect back 10 years ago to this week when the U.S. invaded Iraq. Your thoughts today?
Well, Amy, before that, we remember how I think it was 15 million people across the world who marched against the war in Iraq. It was perhaps the biggest display of public morality in the world. You know, I mean, before the war happened, everybody knew that they were being fed lies. I remember saying, you know, it's just the quality of the lies that is so insulting, because we are being used to being lied to. But unfortunately now, all these years later,
we have to ask ourselves two questions. One is, who benefited from this war? We know who paid the price. I heard you talking about that, so I won't get into that again. But who benefited from this war? Did the US government, did the US people benefit? Did they get the oil contracts that they wanted in the way that they wanted? The answer is no. And yet, today, you hear Dick Cheney saying he would do it all over again in a second. So, unfortunately, we are dealing with psychosis. We are dealing with a psychopathic situation. And all of us, including myself, we can't do anything but keep being reasonable, keep saying what needs to be said. But that doesn't seem to help the situation because, of course, as we know, after Iraq, there's been Libya, there's Syria, and the rhetoric of, democracy versus radical Islam. When you look at the countries that were attacked, none of them were, Wahhabi, Islamic fundamentalist countries. Those ones are supported, financed by the US. So there is a real collusion between radical Islam and capitalism. What is going on is really a different kind of battle, and most people are led up a path which keeps them busy. And in a way, all of us are being kept busy, while the real business at the heart of it, I mean, apart from the people who suffered during the war, let's not forget the sanctions. Let's not forget Madeleine Albright saying that 1 million children dying in Iraq because of the sanctions was a hard price, but worth it. I mean, she was the victim, it seems, of the sanctions. Her softness was called upon, and she had to brazen herself to do it. And today you have the Democrats bombing Pakistan, destroying that country too. So just in this last decade, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, all these countries have been shattered. We heard a lot about why the war in Afghanistan was fought for feminist reasons, and the Marines were really on this feminist mission. But today, all the women in all these countries have been driven back into medieval situations. Women who were liberated, women who were doctors and lawyers and poets and writers, and pushed back into this Shia set against Sunnis. The US is supporting Al-Qaeda militias all over this region and pretending that it's fighting Islam. So we are in a situation of it is psychopathic, and while anyone who resists it is being given moral lessons about armed struggle or violence or whatever it is, at the heart of this operation is an immorality and a violence and a as I keep using this word, psychopathic violence, which even the people in the United States are now suffering for. There is a connection, after all, between all these wars and people being thrown out of their homes in this country. And yet, of course, we know who benefits from these wars. May not be the oil contracts, but certainly the weapons industry on which this economy depends for a great part. So all over, even between India and Pakistan now, people are advocating war, and the weapons industry is in with the corporations in India. So we are really being made fools of. This is what is so insulting. We are being, given lessons in morality while tens of thousands are being killed, while whole countries are shattered, while whole civilizations are driven back, decades, if not centuries, and everything continues as normal. And you have people like criminals, really, like Cheney, saying, "I'll do it again. I'll do it again. I won't think about it. I'll do it again."